Well, hey friends, welcome back to the cabin. We're going to go down here and take a look at the footers that Jennifer and I poured and see how well they set up. So I'll see you down there. Well, at least we know they're level. You know, you may be wondering why I doubled up on anchor bolts like in these two compared to those two down there. Well, I can't buy 22 feet basically, so I could buy 20s, 16s, 12s, and 8s. So what I'm going to do is end up with a couple of 16 footers running. I'll have a 10, I'll have a 12, and they're going to be spliced primarily in this area right here and then be going in that direction. But that way my splices don't end up for the same one in the same place. So that way I can kind of stagger my joints. But I've also got those are 10-inch timber screws, and what I'm going to do is, where I don't actually have an anchor bolt on some of these, for like this one right here, I'm going to have two running side by side. But what I'm going to do, as I anchor that down, I'm also going to go through there and use these to tie the others together, or tie one to the other one. So I'll be sure that this foundation will be nice, sturdy, and it will not move. So it looks like we're doing a good job so far. We've only got one left to do. Right there is the nail head that we set about over a week ago actually. And then I've got another one right here that you couldn't see, but that is actually the edge, or the outside edge of the last form. So the last form will be sitting here a little bit closer than these others are spaced apart. But I can still get the same track because it will go all the way to the end. But yeah, so I've got one hole left to dig, and then I'm going to go ahead and make up one more form. I haven't tried to take these apart, so I'm just leaving them on there until, you know, the very last minute. But I'm just going to go ahead, and because I've got the material, I'll build another one after we dig the hole, get it set. Then I've got to tie up some of that rebar so that I can set that down in the hole, and I think that that's going to add a lot of strength as well. You know, I don't know what these look like underneath, but if they look anything like they do on top, they didn't turn out too bad. I was looking at these and I thought, you know what, I could just cut those corners off where they stick up and just leave the rest of it on there, because it's not hurting anything, and it may eventually even fall off. You know, I think the most important part to setting a footer or form or whatever it is that your project that you're working on is the fact that it needs to be straight. They need to be set on where they need to go, in other words on the mark, and they need to be level. Concrete, that's not really hard to mess up, right? But if they're not in the correct position, then whatever you did was for naught, because it's going to be wrong. So I think that I have these laid out. I mean, as far as them being level and measuring all the same, they all measure the same. So I'm just hoping though that, like I said, of course when you run the rails down here and the feet are sitting on the rails, you know, you've got all of that you can play with. But I just hope that they line up with all of the joints properly in the direction that the head is supposed to be traveling, because I don't know that you can turn it around and it worked properly, because I think that the drive belt is only on one side. Anyway, so yeah, This, and the way that I've got it laid out, by the way, is for the head to run in this direction. So hopefully it doesn't have to run in that direction when it gets here. But I'm going to leave those on for another day, I think, before I take them off. And then I think I may just, like I said, cut those little posts off in the corner, leave this on there. And, you know, this isn't a how-to video, or not even a how-to channel, really. I just kind of do things as I see them in my head. Just like, you know, for example, we're working on this concrete. I've got so many corners in every little area that the concrete needs to go in, so I mixed it up just a little wetter than I probably would normally. That way it can kind of run through there and I don't have to try to beat it into place, because it's going to set up the same, right? It just may take it just a little bit longer because it was a little wetter, but it's going to draw moisture from the ground anyway when it rains. So yeah, it didn't hurt it at all, and I think it turned out quite nice. They all basically look the same as far as color goes. You know, you can get different batches of stuff. There was, what was it? It was, I believe it was mortar that I picked up one time, that I mixed it up, and after it dried, it was just crumbly, you know. So good thing I didn't have a whole lot of it, but I think there was only a couple of bags that I had to get rid of, because I got it in the same, I bought it at the same time, it came in the same lot, you know. But yeah, there's just, you know, just like the siding that I did and everything else, I just do things as I see in my head. So I guess this is kind of a disclaimer, you know, don't do as I say, or even as I do, maybe, because you may have a better idea. But anyway, my idea on this concrete was to beef it up, you know, as well as I could, and that was adding that cage type of rebar in there. So what's the next step after I get this other hole done? Like I was saying earlier, I'm going to have to go buy some what they call 6x6s, but I call 5.5 by 5.5, because it's either one or the other, right? I'm just teasing. Anyway, since the feet are offset far enough and the feet are large enough, I had to run two side by side. So, or I could have run this way, which my footers would have had to run the opposite direction, and I thought, you know, I would just have to do more of that unless I poured a solid footer or a solid pad. And let me tell you, that would have been very, very expensive. I think getting these 6x6s is a whole lot cheaper, and it's going to be just fine, because, you know, my joints, as far as the frame goes, my joints are going to be on the pillars, and I think it will withstand the size logs that I'm going to be putting on it, as long as I'm careful when I'm setting them, loading them or unloading, you know, whatever. So I think I figured it up where I'm going to have 3 different sizes of the 6x6s, and that's the reason that, like I said earlier, that I've added so many anchor bolts. And then where there is not an anchor bolt and they're running parallel, they're going to get timber screws. So they'll even get timber screws in the middle, so they will kind of support one another in the middle as well, but only as far as those timber screws go. But now I have 50 of them, so I could use 25 of them on this half and 25 on the other half. But yeah, so that's the next thing. And then what I'm going to do, what I have to do once I get them here, I'm going to have to set them up, mark where the anchor bolts are on the side. I'll have to measure over, drill my hole a little bit oversized, set it down on there. I'll have to countersink one side because I'm only coming up 4 inches, right? So I'll have to go down to about, I'll say 3.5, maybe 3.25. That way I can get my nut on there good, and then tighten them all down. And then I can go ahead and run those timber screws through there. So that's what my plan is. And it may be overkill like everything else, but you know what? It is peace of mind. So I don't mind doing that in the beginning, because, you know, I would much rather build from the ground up as I would to try to repurpose anything, you know, or rebuild anything, or renovate, I should say. I do not like doing that. It'd be pretty hard for me to start that solar project without the ability to mill the lumber that I'm going to need in order to build the frame, build the hut, if that's what we're going to do. We're still, you know, deciding actually where we want this thing to sit, but we may go ahead and provide its own little shelter on its place where it's going to live here on the homestead. But yeah, it'd be pretty hard to do that because I could go and purchase the material like I'm going to buy those 6x6s, but not with the timber and dead standing trees that we've got around here and what other folks have. I still got some trees over at my neighbor's house that I haven't went and gotten. He told me that I could have them. There's just a whole lot going on, you know, and when you live on a homestead, sometimes you have to change your plans for the day because something else jumps in front of it. Yesterday I was asking Jennifer to get me the 3-pound hammer because different areas of work, or different areas in your life where you may work, I should say. For example, when I worked for the telephone company or in communications, we call this just basically a 3-pound. Okay? If you said that, somebody knew exactly what you were talking about. Other folks would call it a line hammer. Okay? So I asked Jennifer yesterday, I said, would you get me the 3-pound hammer? She was looking and looking. Don't tell her I said this. And then finally she just brings me a regular claw hammer. I said, no, bring me the little hammer that doesn't have a claw on it. So she comes carrying this one out. She goes, this one? And I said, yeah. She says to me, that's a sledgehammer, which in essence it is. It's a 3-pound sledge. Then you have what? The 5 pounds. Then you got an 8 pounds. So, but yeah, anyway, I thought it was quite funny. But I seen that and I just thought I would tell you. Friends, if you're enjoying these little, they're not campfire or fireside chats, but these little get-togethers and these little chats about what's going on up here and you know, when they send us stuff and we review that, whatever. But if you're enjoying this, please leave us some comments to let us know down there in the bottom. Hit the thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel and you haven't checked out our main channel, be sure and go check out Smoky Mountain Outpost. That's where we do all the building. I think you'll enjoy it. Friends, thanks so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it. We look forward to seeing you back up here at the cabin again next time.